Over the last 4 months or so, we've been building an app for the Renegade Success Network. For the next 2 weeks, we're going to walk you through that process because it's a great case study of how you can make something new happen in your business. All that starts in a few moments.
Stay tuned for today's Antidote, brought to you by the Renegade Success Network. Today's Antidote features a healthy dose of thought-provoking insights and information for business owners, entrepreneurs, leaders, and nonprofit professionals. Each day since March of 2020, this program has offered that one thing to help you continue on your own unique pathway to success. And now, Renegades, we bring you Bob Graham and Tom Brush.
Hey, Tom. Happy Monday.
Good morning, Bob. How are you today?
I'm good, except for one real big problem. I made waffles, and the title is Making Pancakes. I told you about 2 months ago, I had a little mini waffle making machine. I didn't tell you I had a mini pancake making machine. So now I feel like a knucklehead. I made waffles to represent what we were doing today, and not going to work.
Well, the concept is similar. The batter is close. It's interesting. Today we're talking about the batter of those pancakes. And it is interesting how similar the batter of pancakes and waffles are, and what can sometimes happen when you think you're making pancakes and yet the batter that you created was actually for waffles.
Ooh.
So we'll get into that more in a little bit.
Okay.
Welcome to today's Antidote, everyone, our daily broadcast and podcast where we have conversations around a topic. This week, our topic is really a case study, and a case study that we're going to try to explain kind of like making pancakes or waffles, in Bob's case. And
thank you.
And at the end of that conversation, we'll provide our one thing, our antidote for today. As we're going through and along our conversation today, if you have thoughts you'd like to share about this, please feel free to put them in the comments. If you are watching our podcast on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, or
LinkedIn Live.
Yes, because we know that the comments and thoughts you share will not only help our show, will also help others who might be looking for that information. If you're happening to be listening to our podcast today, unfortunately, there's not really a great way to leave comments in there. But what you can do is you could rate our show.
5 stars. There's my hand right up with 5 fingers.
Yes, 5 stars. You can also share it with others because we know that there are people out there looking for all types of value. And you being able to share that with them may be just the thing that they need to help them get through whatever the challenge is that they're facing. If you are, if you would like to post a comment, though, you can always do that in our Ring of Renegades Facebook group. It's easy to find. Just go to Facebook, search for Ring of Renegades. If you're not yet a member, all you have to do is ask, and then we can make you a part of that growing community. So the introduction aside now, we dive into the first piece of our show. We always start with a celebration. What are you celebrating today, Bob?
I'm going to celebrate the snow. It snowed here. I was at the beach in Delaware. It's rare that they get a lot of snow. We got a foot of snow Friday night into Saturday, which was just beautiful. But for me, the beauty of it was I went out and did some shoveling to get my vehicle free and met a whole bunch of people in the neighborhood that I'd never met before. So it was really a great social activity. And, I was helping other people with their shoveling, and they were like, oh, well, let me give you $50. I'm like, no, you gave me more than enough. We were talking, we were having a good time. Someone brought a beverage to me that was the perfect afternoon beverage. It was just really a nice time with people that I haven't really met or talked to. And we were all sharing the experience of trying to get through the snowstorm together and the after effects. So,
yeah, there is nothing like everybody out there trying to figure out how to get rid of snow. And one good way to make it not such a painful or unhappy moment is to get to know the people around you who are also shoveling. I have experienced that myself, and it is funny what shoveling and removing snow will do to bring people together. Love that celebration.
How about you?
I am going to celebrate that it is the start of the lacrosse season. That's the college lacrosse season, at least. So Friday afternoon, one of the team was doing an inter-squad scrimmage. And so my wife, Liz, who officiates with me, knows the coach. And they asked us to come down and get on the field, blow the whistle as officials. And it was great to be back on the field. It was a little, it's been a while. It's been a few months. And so sometimes you got to get the cobwebs out and kind of remember what's in the batter. Like, what are the signals I'm supposed to give? And what is a foul? And these things that I had thought that I had put aside that I was trying to get rid of sometimes pop back up. So it was great to have a chance to be out there prior to the first real game. So what are Renegades celebrating today, Bob?
Perseverance. So this is the week when historically people drop off of fitness programs, exercise, all kinds of things that they made in their New Year's resolutions. This is a week that 70 to 80% of people, depending on which survey you look at, they drop off. They've gone through the month of January, and suddenly at this point at the end of January, they start to go, you know what? I'm going to do something else. And so those who persevere, who set a new habit or a new goal for this new year and continue forth, should be celebrated. Persevering, whatever it is. I know for me, one of the commitments I made at the beginning of the year was to be in contact with one or more of my 23 nieces and nephews every day. So I have been consistent with that all through this month of texting them. I've called a couple of them, and it's been really great. And now it's a habit. It's just, I get up in the morning, I'm like, who am I going to reach out to today? And it's just, it took a while to get comfortable with that, but now it's just part of my day.
I think that's a good thing. I think it's a good, it is interesting how people, with best intentions, try to fall through. And we talked a lot about that last week and when we discussed the Renegade routine. And if you are struggling, or if you're one of those people who were either considering giving up on what you were doing, or you are one of those people who had all the best intentions to follow a routine and yet are falling off it, you may want to go back and listen to those episodes, because I think there is some really valuable information in there. And I would say especially episode 502, which is, sometimes when you get disruptions, and what does that look like? And I thought, honestly, that might have been one of the best conversations we had of the year. And not just this calendar year, but in the last year. So go back and check that out if you're struggling with that. And otherwise, if you are still going strong with your goals and intentions and resolutions, congratulations for your perseverance.
We celebrate you and that effort.
Correct. All right. So, perseverance is that's one of those things you do when you try to create something, right?
Yep.
That it's often takes time to figure it out. Today we're going to talk about making pancakes, because I think as we get through the week, you'll understand why pancakes was the choice. Not the whole waffle thing threw me a little bit, but okay.
I knew it would. I thought this morning, what could I do to mess with you? It's like, I'm going to make waffles.
So now I see. Now it's about how do we mess with Tom.
That's exactly what it's all about.
Interesting. All right. It's good to know. Because two can play at that game. And when you have and when you have the controls.
And now it's the Tom show.
No. So I think that one of the challenging things is to figure out what, sometimes if you're making pancakes, you can go by the recipe, but what it's in the batter. What are the things we need to create something? And really, as you think about it, it's the batter. And sometimes we're fortunate, with pancakes, you get a recipe. Sometimes you don't have that recipe and you're like, all right, what goes in that again? I think, it's flour and some eggs and a little bit of water and some other things. And you try to figure it out. And at some point, whoever made the first pancake had to create what that recipe was. And I would imagine that they went through a lot of different things as they were trying to determine, all right, what is going to go into the batter that is going to actually make this thing at that point taste good? Or in our case, in the case study we're talking about of our creating an app, make it valuable to others. And, I think there's so much that goes into what could be in that batter that it becomes challenging.
Well, we had a lot of discussions before we chose to build an app. We had talked about some platform issues. We had talked about some goals that we had. We talked about things that resonated with the people we had talked to. We talked about what we personally wanted from it. And it took us, what would you say, Tom, 3-4 months of discussion back and forth from time to time about what we were trying to do to get to a place where we even could almost write the checklist of it needs to do this, 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 this. It wasn't an overnight, hey, let's build an app. This was an evolutionary process. And I think that's the first thing when you think about what needs to go in the batter of anything you're trying to build. You have to figure out, 1, what you're trying to accomplish, 2, what your audience expects or is looking for, and 3, what you can reasonably deliver. There were things in our discussion, if you remember, where it was like, I would love to do this. And we said, yeah, no, that we're not quite ready for that today. That we'll add that later. I think we've got a list of 5, 6, 7 things that are add later items, because it's like, what can we do to get this off the ground to make the first pancake? First pancake is never the best pancake.
Don't give that away. We're coming up to that.
What's that?
Don't give that all away. That's Wednesday's topic.
Oh, okay. Never mind. The first pancake is always the best pancake. It never changes.
Yeah, I wouldn't go that far. I think you were on the right track before. I just didn't want you to give away the whole thing. I think that, what's interesting is that we had those conversations, and yet we didn't really have a solution. There were some pieces of the batter that were missing that we just didn't have when we first started talking about it. And it was more like a good idea. It was sort of like, this would be really cool to have. And I think we can see the value of it. And these are some of the challenges that we are currently facing in trying to connect and engage with people. And so how can we do this differently so that we might have another approach, just in case some other things that we can't control change. And now we are not able to connect and engage the way we wanted to. And I think that goes along with anything that you make, right? And let's just choose the pancakes since that's our example. Is, probably a lot of people sat down and thought, all right, well, tired of eggs, had eggs forever and ever and ever and ever and ever. And, sausage is great. Bread is good. What could be different? What could be a breakfast food that would mix up the routine, that would add a little bit of all of that to where breakfast was? Could be a waffle. The challenge is, when they first started creating pancakes, they didn't have that funny shaped machine that created the holes in the pancakes that became likely the waffle. They were like, all right, we've got this stuff. Let's throw it on a hot piece of metal, iron, whatever that is, and fire it up, see what happens. And I think that's so much the challenge, right? Is that we see a challenge in front of us and we start to think of, okay, well, what's the solution to that challenge? For us, we felt like email doesn't always reach people. The algorithms in social media doesn't necessarily include everyone who would want to see it. What are the ways that you could get in front of people and be much more assured that they actually receive that message? And I think that's when we started talking about apps, and we started thinking about how do we address the challenge? Kind of what are the initial pieces that would go into that ingredient? Excuse me. And then, as we got through it, one of the key ingredients that was missing is, how do we deliver it? And, the options always seemed too expensive. It's kind of like, I would really like to make this unbelievable pancake, with caviar in it just is a little over and above what we at the time wanted to invest in a breakfast food.
I like that. That's really good. And I think also as we thought through it, we started to eliminate some things in that discussion. Like this would be great to have. And I think that's one of the things that I think we tend not to do in business. We tend to throw everything at the wall and not be specific. And I think when you and I started to really narrow it down to what we wanted, that made the solution a lot easier to come by. And when we found the way to do it, it really forced us to compress what we were trying to do, which I think was really the key to success ultimately, was having a clear vision of what the baseline was. In business, they always talk about the minimum viable product. What's the least amount of stuff you can build in some new product or service? Take it to the marketplace and let the marketplace then help you dictate what you should do with it. Rather than you steering it, let the marketplace do it. And I'm curious to see with our app what the marketplace may do with it, because there are a couple of different things that you can do with that app right now, and there'll be more coming. I don't know which of them will resonate most with people. It may be listening to our podcast each day. It may be the sense of community that it provides. It may be the notification service. It may be access to courses. It could be any number of things. I think 5-10 years ago, I would have presumed to know what people would do. Now I think I've gotten to a place where it's like, okay, I don't know. I will be happily surprised.
You knew what everyone was going to do? Everyone in the world? Wow. That's impressive.
Well, I think there was a point in my career where I often thought that I knew what people would do a lot more than I really did know, especially doing marketing.
Well, and I don't think that's
marketing is one of those things where you throw it out there, you have a good impression. And I was pretty good at it often, but there were times when I would just be completely off.
Well, I think that's what people do, right? The reason you come up with a solution is you think this is the solution to the challenges that people are facing. So you feel like you do know this is a step, and I think one of the things that we knew was that it's easy for people to be unfocused in their day, to let their day slip away from them, or to be one of those people who started a to-do list in the morning, and by the end of the day, the to-do list was longer than what it started with, and they felt like they got nothing accomplished. And so, I think our premise was, in one of the programs inside the app was, how do we help people walk away from their day not only feeling more productive, actually being more productive, and not walking away. I don't know how many days in my working career.
Uh-oh, we lost Tom again. All right, it must be the effects of the storm. Tom's left us. I know he was going to say something to the effect of he didn't know how many times in his career he didn't really have a sense of satisfaction at the end of the day. And while Tom hopefully comes back shortly, I'm going to tell you what my one thing is today, today's antidote. And that is that you have to be open to what's feasible in creating that batter. If you can't get access to the kind of sugar that you need for that batter, then you're not going to be able to use that sugar. I'm sorry, Tom, I'm giving them my one thing because you kind of checked out. So as you start making that batter, what goes in? I think it's important to be realistic. Your example about caviar is a really good one. If you can't afford caviar, don't even be thinking about putting caviar in your batter or in your pancake, because it's just not going to work. So, Tom, before you leave us again, what is your one thing?
As I think about whether it's making pancakes or creating something, trying a new routine, or bringing an idea, concept to your team, I think it's really helpful to start thinking about, it's funny, you said earlier, throw everything against the wall. And I think so often people throw everything against the wall and they take what sticks. And I think there's value in that. I also think that sometimes things stick that aren't really as helpful. It just seems like you think this makes really good sense. Caviar seemed like a really good idea at the moment.
No one else is doing it.
No one else is doing it.
That tends to be the one.
It would be like, oh, all right, I'm going to do this. And, and I think it's good to consider all those things. And sometimes you throw them in the batter, and then you'll have to wait and see what you get. I think as we'll talk throughout the week, there's a lot more that goes into it. We had ideas about what we thought would be beneficial. And so we started putting them in the batter in this app, putting them in the app. They may or may not be in the app, still be in the app a year from now. Who knows? The app might be completely different a year from now. As we figure out, we put our batter together, and then we'll see what the results are going to look like. And I think that's sort of the thing, is you just never know. And I think, unfortunately, sometimes when people put the batter together, they're worried about the end result first, rather than saying, you know what, let me give it a try. And I know we'll talk about that more, so I don't want to get too deeply into that. And I think it's good to consider all those things. And sometimes I think even those things that fall to the floor, maybe you want to give them a second thought, because they may add value to what it is. And I think that, though, the challenge, and this is my one thing, is don't be concerned in making your batter that it's going to be perfect, that you're going to have all the answers. Likely you're not.
You mean you could make waffles when the analogy is pancakes?
Correct. You could do that. Well, how do you know, right? Until you start. You say, I want to make this. I'm not even sure I know exactly what this is. I have an idea. We knew we wanted to be an app. Well, we knew that an app was a way to deliver what we wanted to deliver in the way we wanted to deliver it. Then it was the process of, okay, how do we, now all the things that go into that, to the batter and creating it. And so I think as you consider your batter, realize that the batter may or may not be correct, get you the results you desire the first time.
Hey, Tom, we probably should tell people at this point, since we've been talking about this app and we've been talking about the batter in it, if you want to see that app for yourself, all you have to do is go to Google Play or Apple, the Apple Store, and you can the App Store, sorry. You could go to the Apple Store, but they probably laugh at you. The App Store would be more useful. And all you have to do is type in Renegade Success Network, and it'll pop up. You can download the app, and you can see exactly what went into our batter. And I think it'll help you as we go through the next week or two talking through this. It might help you to be aware of it. So that's available to you for free, no charge. So we look forward to you seeing that. And if you have thoughts about that batter and what we put in and what we didn't, we'd love to hear from you. It's a work in progress.
It is a work in progress. And I think there's some things in there that you can access. There's some other things that you might want to access that if you are interested, you can either make the purchase within the app, or you can reach back out to us to take advantage of some of the other valuable information content that is in there, and know that there will be more to come. So we would love to have you download that and send us a feedback of what you think, because we know that getting feedback for the batter is important. That might be a little heads up of what's coming down the pike. So if you have one thing you'd like to share today about pancakes, what do you like in your batter, or some content you've created, something you've created, and the process that you went through in trying to create the batter that you would eventually share, we would love to hear it. So please feel free to put it in the comments. You could also go inside our Ring of Renegades Facebook group and share it there. Not yet a member? It's easy to join. Just ask. And then you can become a part of our growing community, where we are helping people take their next step along their own unique pathway to success. So with that, we hope that we see you inside the Ring of Renegades Facebook group. We hope we see you logging in to our app. And if not,
if not, we'll see you tomorrow, 8 a.m. Eastern time, for the next episode of Today's Antidote. Hey, embrace the renegading you. And I think because Tom is out, he can't hit the button he needs to hit. Yep. So it's time for me to talk for a couple minutes. This is when you can leave the program, folks. It'll be okay.